We light the candle to remind us of the light of reason, the source of meaning and wonder in the world. And just as we light the candle, let us remember how the light was ignited in each one of us as we were born curious and craving affection. We close the candle in the lantern to remind us that the light must be protected. Just as the light can be nurtured through virtues of compassion and skepticism, so too can it be extinguished through fear and ignorance and neglect. Let each of us embody the light through the rigorous study and application of skeptical values. Let us spread the light through our shining example and through education and outreach. And let us protect the light by standing up for science and reason wherever darkness gathers. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. And we repeat together, be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Let it be so.
Awesome. Thank you. You know what I didn't do? This is the first time we've been at this venue. Welcome, everybody. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Celina and Emmett and Gus and LuLu. That was awesome. We're trying new things with this one, and thanks all of you for coming. But this venue is awesome. This has the best amenities of any place that we've been so far. And one of the cool features here that I did Celina the disservice of not turning on for you was we have a mic. Hello? I don't know if that will interfere with our own mics. We are also wearing mics, but those aren't for you guys. Those are for the live stream and for our recording. Come on in. What's up, Aiden? Everyone should have a prayer book and a skeptic's toolkit. Let's make sure that Aiden gets one of each of those. And if there's anyone in here that doesn't have them yet, we'll make sure that you get one as well. You need them, right? I think Celina is grabbing those. Which, speaking of, hi everyone on the live stream. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I guess we'll leave the mic on. I had a question as to whether or not we needed it, but I think it works. It's nice. But so the audio is good in here. We've got a giant screen. I mean, anyone who's been to the rest of the services that we've had, this is our 5th one now, if you can believe it. But the amenities here really are nice. Maybe we can try and book this some more in the future. In fact, our next sanctuary is already booked. It's going to be at UTD on campus. We'll talk more about that at the end. But for now, I said this is our 5th sanctuary. This will be our 4th here in Plano, in the Metroplex. We did one earlier this month in Santa Ana, California. So our first one out of state, which was awesome. And this is the first time we've done 2 in a month. Don't expect that or get used to that, but it did happen. It is possible. And something that we would, Seta brought this up at our last brunch after the last sanctuary, but we want to start incorporating, we think it's time to start incorporating kind of a counter program where if once a month we're meeting to do this sanctuary service, every 2 weeks when we're not doing a service, we should get together for coffee and just talk, maybe talk about current events, but through the skeptical lens or in the context of kind of things that we discuss here. And I think that it's probably about time to put that into practice. Oh, and the California service that I mentioned, we have a YouTube channel. Our first 2 actually our second and third sanctuary are up on the YouTube channel now. You can see the whole things in their entirety. We're going to put up the California one, so I know none of us were here until that. That will also go up on the YouTube channel. The first one's not up because we botched the recording. It's just not good enough quality to put up. Follow the YouTube channel. All this stuff goes up there. And for those of you following on the live stream, if you want access to that, it's just look for Ministry of Skepticism on YouTube. And happy birthday, Emily. Celina's daughter, Emily. It's her birthday today, 11/22. She's in London. She can't be here today, but we send her lots of love for her birthday. The mission of the Ministry of Skepticism, what we're doing here is we're providing an alternative to conventional faith-based religions. We're trying to offer an evidence-based framework for the contemplation of meaning, purpose, significance, and morality. And through Ministry of Skepticism, we hope to spread rationality and scientific literacy, which is so sorely lacking and so urgently needed. This is not a political organization, but it would be criminal if I didn't acknowledge that just this week, the CDC revised the information on their website, no longer making it clear that there is no link between vaccines and autism. This is a crime against science and healthcare. It puts countless children needlessly at risk, and it is an absolute dereliction of duty and responsibility from a critical governmental resource, and it is 100% an unfortunate victory of politics and ideology over science. So if there's anyone that questions the importance or the urgency of something like this, of spreading the value and the importance of skepticism and scientific critical inquiry, you need look no further than what's happening right now at the CDC. Okay, but let's be more uplifting here, because that's not the only reason that we're here. That is an important aspect of it, but really, you guys are also all the evidence that we need. We are trying to build a sense of community around those values for people that prefer or that have adopted an evidence-based or naturalistic view of the world. We should not be excluded from occasions like this, where we get to come together and we get to think about existential, metaphysical topics, consider our own mortality and our significance and our place in the universe. For so long, we have kind of been carved out of those spaces, but you don't have to wait to be invited in. What we are doing is we are creating those spaces for ourselves. So thank you guys for all being here and being a part of this fellowship. The planetary scientist and beloved science communicator, Carl Sagan, author of The Demon-Haunted World, which in no small part is huge inspiration for what we're doing here. In fact, Science as a Candle in the Dark is the kind of subheading for the title, and we have adopted that in our messaging, a candle in the dark. But so Carl Sagan captured this idea really beautifully when he wrote that science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality. When we recognize our place in an immensity of light years and in the passage of ages, when we grasp the intricacy, beauty, and subtlety of life, then that soaring feeling, that sense of elation and humility combined, is surely spiritual. So are our emotions in the presence of great art, or music, or literature, or acts of exemplary selfless courage. The notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both. I should also note that this month we celebrated Carl Sagan Day. He was born on November 9th, passed away in 1996, but they have Carl Sagan Day on his birthday. So happy belated birthday, Carl Sagan. And one minor housekeeping note. today's topic is morality. We're going to be discussing the theme of morality through kind of a skeptical lens. Some of you may have noticed that there was a huge surge in followers on the Ministry of Skepticism account. We were at about 165 followers. Thanks. It's most of the people in the room. And if you're not following yet, please do that so that we don't have to resort to engagement farms in Indonesia. I was on, by the way, so we went up to over 7,000 followers this week, okay? Which sounds like a huge inflection point. Wow, we made it. People are catching the message, but no, that is not what happened at all. I was up late at night troubleshooting this, trying to, working with ChatGPT to try to figure out why can't we go live on our Instagram. The first two sanctuaries, we were able to go live, and then something happened a couple of sanctuaries ago where we just did not have access to the feature anymore. So I've been trying to troubleshoot it, and it was late at night, and a friend of mine called, and I told him what I was doing. I'm like, listen, man, I'm just so frustrated. I've been dealing with ChatGPT for hours. He's like, what's the problem? And I said, we haven't been able to go live with our Instagram. And he goes, oh, I got this. He's like, what's the name of your account? I said, Ministry of Skepticism. He's like, you got to text it to me because I'm not that good at spelling. So I sent him the name of the account, and he's like, I hear him like kind of like working away in silence. I'm like, what are you doing? No response. After a little while, he comes back and he says, it'll be fixed in about an hour. He said, at worst case scenario, by the time you get up in the morning, you'll be good. You'll have access to live. I'm like, what'd you do? And as I'm asking this, I'm looking at my phone. I start to see all these followers popping up, all these alerts from Instagram. I'm like, okay, wow. And he's like, you'll have probably between 2,000 to 3,000 followers in the morning, maybe more. I'm like, oh my God, what have you done? And I didn't know what to say in that moment. I mean, now I'm trying to walk this line between being grateful, he's just trying to help, but now feeling mortified. This thing that we built, I mean, we're talking about morality today. We're trying to offer some kind of moral guidance. And now we're going out and we're like using these engagement farms, these bots from Indonesia. So my conversation with ChatGPT changed dramatically after I got off the phone with my friend. I'm like, changing direction here, newsflash, but there's been a development. I'm like, and I told ChatGPT, I'm like, I'm mortified. What can I do now? So now instead of trying to find followers, now we're trying to get rid of followers. And ChatGPT is basically, it's like, you just got to remove them manually. So when I woke up in the morning, it was way more than 2,000 or 3,000. We had over 7,000 followers. Every day I've just been going in and remove. We're back down now to about 3,200. So it'll be another week probably before we get back down to our organic following, about 165 followers. But it put us in a kind of a precarious moral predicament, which is perfect, the timing of it, given the theme of today's sanctuary. But so there, full transparency, just so you guys know, we haven't actually made it yet, but we're on our way. But when we do, it will be all the more meaningful, and we'll know that we can believe it. All right, so this is Sanctuary. Welcome, everybody. Since this is a movement rooted in science and skepticism, and since we care about the reliability of claims made about the natural world, and this includes anything that can be measured or evaluated systematically. But for things which are personal and private and meaningful to you, and which you're not seeking to have validated or affirmed by empirical proofs, those are your own business. If you have a personal relationship with God or the universe, whatever your spiritual disposition is, that is your own business. We have no opinion on that. And neither the belief nor the absence of belief in deities is a prerequisite to skepticism or to this church, the Ministry of Skepticism. That is your own business. From an empirical point of view, I'm not aware of any good evidence for the existence of a God or any gods. That doesn't mean that there aren't good reasons to believe in God. Again, that is up for you to determine for yourself. The existence of a God or gods does not factor into our teachings. It is kind of outside of the scope of what we discuss here. We only refer to things that can be seen or measured in nature. And this is a safe space. for all rational claims and the exploration of all claims from the perspective of reason and rationality. And as long as you have an open mind and you're willing to learn the tools for approaching claims critically, then you're welcome in this sanctuary. Next, we're going to call up Alia to say the prayer, our sanctuary prayer, to welcome us all in this space. And Alia, I will leave the mic on for you. I know you don't need it, but we've got it.
Okay. Before I start, I'm a teacher in elementary school, and I had my own sanctuary this week in this class. My boys were talking, while they play games or do any kind of educational thing or breathe, they talk. And one of my boys he was doing voices, and one of them looked at him and said, "Dude, that's racist." And he said, "No, it's not. It's funny." And so they had this conversation, all of them going back, none of them ever looking up or looking in each other's eyes. And they had this conversation, and you have to understand, my students come from Jordan, Syria, I've got a Nigerian, Venezuelan, one from Garland. And they're all having this philosophical conversation about what racism means. And finally, one of them said, "Okay, man, I won't do it again." And they went, "Okay, all right." And they smiling at each other and loving it. And I was like, I could have gotten mad. I could have done a whole bunch of things. I could have interrupted. And I didn't. And they were able to come to this great agreement and safe place. So
Great.
Mine. Sanctuary. This is a space of sanctuary. We are welcome here. There are no ideas that are forbidden, no questions that are off limits. Beliefs are personal. Each of us is free to determine how we ascribe value and meaning. And this space, claims are neither accepted nor rejected by decree. We do not offer a fixed set of laws. There is no canon, and there are no commandments. We offer patience and fellowship and the tools to guide you in your own pursuit of truth. Skepticism is a process, not a position. Believe what you will. What is private and personal is your own business. But for anything that can be measured or quantified, or that you hope to have validated or affirmed, so long as you are willing to follow the evidence in good faith, wherever it may lead, then you are welcome in this space. You will find sanctuary here. Let it be so.
Let it be so. Alia, how old are your students? What grade?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade. How old is fifth grade? 10?
10, 11.
Uh-huh. How old's Finn?
14.
Way past that. What grade is that?
8.
Okay. God, really? No. Otherwise, I'll be in the whole video. That was a wonderful story. Thank you for sharing that, Alia. Next, we're going to call up to share a story about his own personal relationship with skepticism and his journey to skepticism. This is our incandescence. Every sanctuary, we have an incandescence presentation from a speaker. In conventional religious formats, maybe it would be called something like a testimony. We call it incandescence. Borrowing from Carl Sagan's line, "Science is a candle in the dark, science is the light of reason." We use the light motif throughout our messaging. So we have the lantern as an icon and a symbol that we use in our logo. We have our beacons, which are kind of our guiding principles here. And we also have an incandescence, which Israel is going to come up and share with us.
Can everyone hear me for once? Just wanted to check. Okay, wonderful. My journey into skepticism begins with my friend Ben when I was 16 years old. I had met him years prior at a skateboarding competition, and although he was a few years younger than me and the rest of my friend group, this didn't stop him from mesmerizing all of us with his skills on a skateboard. It's fair to say that we had all come to love him immediately. Through the years, we had skated together, filmed skate video parts together, spent the night at each other's houses, got to know each other's families, and took many trips together. He became a very important friend that I deeply treasured. In May of 2011, my friend Ben tragically passed away in an accidental shooting while cleaning his rifle. It appeared he was unaware that his rifle was loaded while he was cleaning it, and it discharged while in his direction. I deeply struggled with fully processing his passing. This was my first experience with the death of someone I considered a loved one, and the disturbing randomness and wastefulness of it stunned me deep to my core. Day after day, I kept asking myself, how could someone like him die like that? He was so kind, young, and had such a long, beautiful future ahead of him. I could not in the slightest understand how to reconcile his death with my conception of how the world worked. I would even ask God, rather rudely, to explain what reason he could possibly have for letting this happen. Ben's social media accounts also became littered with references to the divine, but in a way that differed greatly from my personal critical questions. Instead, many of these posts made religious claims about his purpose in life, his death, and the current whereabouts of his soul. Some a bit more explicit than others. Some took the form of, Ben is resting now in a better place with our Lord. Whereas others took the form of, Jesus needed Ben more than we did, even if we can never understand why. Now, although I know these statements were overwhelmingly meant to bring comfort to those hurt by his death, they brought me no such comfort. In fact, all they did was turn the sadness I was feeling into anger. Although the language may change from person to person, it is typically believed that God has a plan for all of us in some way. And so although these statements were meant for comfort, I also took them, at least partially at face value, to be expressions of what these people believed. As a believer in God at this time, and even so, I felt that I had no rights to make claims of this kind about God's abilities or intentions towards my friend. In my view, these religious beliefs and concepts were being used to minimize and trivialize Ben's passing. It made this tragedy into something that we should accept and eventually make peace with, which I agree we should do. But it was asking us to do it in the wrong way and for the wrong reasons. I wanted to get through his death, not by latching on to the extraordinary claims of strangers, but by actually grieving his death and embracing the real emptiness left from his lack of presence. In other words, I wanted to treat his death like it was a real thing, a total and final cessation of his life that cannot be undone or mended later. Though painful, this is what I felt was needed to truly show respect and love to my friend. This was preferable to me to moving on because I had filled my head with poetic sounding stories and slogans about how he's actually better off now than he was before. He wasn't, and neither was I. And to think anything else was to downplay the beauty that was every moment we spent together. This was the moment I realized for the first time that critically investigating the supposed facts and knowledge of others was not just important for being accurate about things that we say and think, but also for protecting ourselves from unfounded thoughts and ideas that seek to take us over when we are at our most vulnerable. From this point on, the theoretical seeds of skepticism were laid deep within me, and they began to grow quickly. Although these seeds were initially motivated by negative emotions, they would begin to sprout the groundwork that would eventually push my life in a beautiful direction that I had not previously thought possible. My frustration and distrust towards conventional religious beliefs led me to absorbing large amounts of books that were critical of traditional religious worldviews. Of the many threads these books had in common, two stuck out to me the most. First, the importance of revising our beliefs about the world to the evidence available for them. And two, an admiration and reverence for the process that is best equipped to do this in the least biased way possible: science. It became clear to me that many of the most vocal voices against mainstream religions either held science in a position of utmost respect or were actually scientists themselves. Science itself is the process of applied skepticism. In order to learn more about the world and ourselves, we must humbly assume that we are only ever moments away from being shown how ignorant we are about almost anything. Certainty and dogma must give way to openness and revision. This is how knowledge is built, and it's why our world benefits so much from the prospects of science and skepticism. There's a deep sense of freedom and honesty in embracing this type of view of the world, and it resonated with me deeply. Little did I know the profound impact that adopting this worldview would eventually have on my life. As the years passed, the books that I mentioned and the thinkers behind them inspired me in an insatiable curiosity towards the human mind. As humans, we all typically consider ourselves authorities over what we think and feel, much of the time resulting in a refusal to accept facts and bits of knowledge that conflict with our personal experiences. Whereas most people can live fine lives ignoring scientific questions relating to, say, chemistry or astronomy, psychology is no such realm. All people seem to have notions and beliefs about how we think, feel, and behave due to knowing what it's like to have a mind. This personal nature of psychology as a discipline made it the perfect avenue for me to continue developing my skepticism. This culminates in something that I never expected. Many years after barely finishing high school, due to a lack of motivation and interest in education, I decided to go back to school. I became enamored in the endless books, courses, and concepts swiftly coming my way. Much of this information had been presented to me years prior in high school, although my reaction and feelings towards it were so different. Education no longer felt like an annoying requirement being pushed upon me by others. Instead, it was now a personal burning desire that I wanted more than anything else. This desire eventually propelled me forward to getting a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then a master's degree in cognitive neuroscience, and then 2 years into a PhD in cognitive neuroscience, which is where I stand today. While pursuing these educational goals, another perk of skepticism emerged in my life: like-minded friends with a passion for science and free thought. I've been blessed with many friends across my life, but very few I felt spoke the same skeptical language that I did. This changed in graduate school, when I slowly started to meet students and others whose scientific and philosophical interests matched my own. Some of those people are sitting here in this room, and I'm very grateful to have met these people who typically it feels like a sin to end conversations with because I enjoy having them so much. Over time, these friendships have grown into a community, and the very fact that I'm up here talking right now to all of you is a testament to the creation of such a community. Skepticism did not just appeal to my academic sensibilities, but it also appealed to my moral ones too. This new worldview began poking holes in the evolved rules of thumb that I had previously used to judge the character of others. By closely examining my emotions to certain interactions with others, I slowly began to see how biased and rather lazy my moral intuitions were. One by one, my ethical starting points began to crumble and expand into something more flexible and counterintuitive. This use of skepticism enabled me to slow down and consider the perspectives of others before forming inflexible conclusions about why people do what they do. Though it can be frustrating to experience negative moral emotions and not allow them to be logically validated, I think overall this application of skepticism has helped me become a more patient and compassionate person for people that I previously would have likely forsaken. Skepticism does not just expand your accurate conceptions of facts in the world, it can expand and redirect your moral compass too. Looking back, the path from a confused, angry teenager, grieving a close friend, to a doctoral student studying the mind feels surprisingly coherent. The adoption of skepticism as a worldview did not just shape how I processed Ben's death, it ended up shaping my whole future. It allowed me to cope with the hardships of life by adjusting my problematic notions of meaning and existence. It allowed me to see education as a gift instead of as a chore. It allowed me to find a career route that I can be passionate about instead of just pursuing work and money for their own sake. It allowed me to find a community of like-minded peers that make me feel seen and understood. And finally, it allowed me to be a more compassionate and loving person by helping me question the moral assumptions about people that I passively absorbed as I grew up. This incandescence was a brief personal love letter to skepticism, but it is also a personal love letter to my friend who made it all possible. I miss him dearly, but I'm glad that his loss pushed me toward a lifelong commitment to truth, kindness, and the responsibility of seeing the world as it truly is instead of how I may wish it would be. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Israel. That was really beautiful. And it is also a demonstration and a testament to what we are doing here, as you said, building this community. We spoke a little bit earlier about belief in God is personal. And so for many people, they might not, it's not even theoretical. It is certain that there are many people who find comfort in times of distress through their relationship with God or through their religion. And our purpose here is not to denigrate anyone else's beliefs or any other religion. But for someone like Israel, who's searching for answers and finds the answers in conventional religions unsatisfactory or inadequate, for people like us who have a evidence-based worldview, we are creating an alternative, a place where Israel can go so that he doesn't have to go on that journey alone and find the answers for himself and just hope that he discovers skepticism. There's a place that people are searching, for people who are searching, where they can find a direction, a sense of meaning, a place to address these questions of insignificance or mortality through a rational perspective. So thank you for sharing your journey with us, Israel. That is a powerful testament to the value of what we're doing here. Why a religion is one of the most common questions that we get. Many of us, because of our personal experiences, have a natural aversion to organized religion. So it seems sort of contradictory to, out of one side of our mouths, be talking about, well, people, we've left the church, or Israel found, the religion's inadequate or dissatisfying in some way. But here we are starting our own religion. So we're just replacing one thing that we find distasteful with something with the exact same thing. How do we justify that? But rather than throw the baby out with the bathwater, we're trying to preserve what's good and effective about organized religions. And what we're trying to do is repair and repurpose the things that are broken. The claims to authority, the dubious science, the arbitrary and seemingly capricious morality. Our aim is not to replace religion. What we're trying to do is to improve it and update it for an enlightened audience. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. Religion's already perfectly adapted as a social tool. It's optimized for human psychology and for our social structures. So we're trying to work within that framework and just add to it the values and ideas and tools that are meaningful for us. Because we still long for community. We want fellowship and ceremony and ritual. We want to address meaning and purpose and feelings of insignificance and mortality. And we want a way to commemorate and sanctify life's important moments. And we want to codify values. These lessons, these teachings that are important to us, we want a way to share them within the community and to our children. And to have a voice, a seat at the table when people are talking about the values that are important to them. There should be a place for us. Just because we don't have belief in a deity doesn't mean we shouldn't have a voice. Our values matter. And you don't wait to teach what's important. Generally, as scientific-minded, rational, evidence-based people, we kind of appeal to those kinds of institutions to teach the things that are important. We think that our schools are doing it. And yet we find ourselves so often at odds with school boards or states or governments that don't share our views. Sometimes can be antagonistic toward them. There are politicians that advocate for getting the 10 Commandments placed in classrooms, for instance. But what the other organized religions do so well is they don't wait for school boards or schools or anyone else to teach the values that are important. They teach them here at services, at Sunday school, around the dinner table when they say prayers. They have a whole framework, a whole structure for passing along their values. So why shouldn't we also? That's what we're trying to build here. You don't wait for other people to teach the things that are important. We're not waiting. Because faith-based religions have had such a monopoly on spirituality for so long, we almost don't even question their claims to authority. Certainly in matters of transcendental importance, the things like meaning and morality. Even as skeptics or non-believers, whatever the case may be, you almost take it as a given. It is so thoroughly, oh, what? Get out of here. Who invited this guy? LuLu, you too. Both of you get out. No, just kidding. Hello, God? Is that you? Stop what you're doing. This is blasphemy. Okay. We're not trying to do any of that. You didn't know you're coming to a comedy show, huh? All of a sudden? Cool. Wait till Zack gets up here. He's reprising the role of Mendelssohn today. That's a deep cut for an, okay. Anyone? No? What the heck were we talking about? But it is so thoroughly ingrained in our collective consciousness, this idea that morality and meaning, these are the domains of religion, that when religious people ask someone who says, oh, I don't believe in God, or, I have a skeptical worldview, they say, well, where does morality come from then? Without a God, without religion. And we immediately feel defensive, and it feels like, oh yeah, that's a tough question. As if the default null hypothesis is that, yes, morality must derive from a divine source. But this is a logical fallacy. Do I have my books? Yeah. All of you, in addition to your prayer books, and by the way, I haven't mentioned this, but you can be following along. All the prayers that we're reading up here, they are in the prayer books. So I encourage you guys all, you're welcome to follow along with those. And please, these are yours. Take them home. You can read them and hopefully enjoy them. This is, again, part of the endeavor of building a framework and tools to share and spread our lessons and our values. But the other thing that we've given you all is the Skeptics Toolkit. And this comes from, all of this is taken from Carl Sagan's book. There's a chapter in here called the Baloney Detection Kit. And it's just an introduction to the tools of skepticism, because they are actual tools. We are talking a lot about skepticism in science here, but I'm sure some of you are like, what is that? What are you even talking about? We will give some answers. We're going to talk more about that. But this is your introduction. And one of the tools in here, that we've got common fallacies. that are listed. And the common fallacy that applies here in this notion of religions or theistic religions having an exclusive claim to morality or meaning, that is an argument from authority. Because our leaders, our political leaders say it, because our religious leaders say it, our teachers say it, everywhere we hear it. And so we take it for granted that it must be true. An argument from authority is a claim asserted as true simply because an authority figure said it, but without providing any further evidence. The fact that an authority figure says something doesn't make it untrue, but it can't be the only thing that we use to verify a claim. And when every authority figure, from politicians to teachers to community leaders, echo and endorse these claims, then the power and the pervasiveness of this fallacy is compounded. So much so that in a 1997 essay, the paleontologist and popular science writer Stephen Jay Gould advocated for something that he called non-overlapping magisteria. And the idea was that there should be a wall between scientific inquiry and religious inquiry. And never the twain shall meet, right? They're two separate domains of inquiry. And so this notion of dividing and walling off these two different areas of inquiry from a respected scientist, no less, is completely artificial. And it shows just how effective this claim to authority has been, that that even scientists are kind of endorsing and buying into it. Yeah, they're separate. But why would we cut off the most interesting and profound questions about our own existence from the best tools and techniques we have for getting answers? Because science, after all, is nothing more than the sum of the practices that produce the most reliable results. As Carl Sagan said, the notion that science and spirituality are somehow mutually exclusive does a disservice to both. So we are breaking down the walls of the non-overlapping magisteria. And there's nothing lost in this process. There's so much to be learned and inspired by in nature. So for our next prayer, we're going to call up the comedy duo of Joby and Zack. Joby's going to be reading as Zack performs a pantomime of the next prayer. Man, I just got a whole list of things. Zack, I'm ready.
I didn't know I was going to a roast.
And you guys have a mic? Great. Okay, so Zack and Joby are going to guide us through the meaning prayer. Excuse me.
We are how the universe thinks about itself. This is an extraordinary and extraordinarily improbable event. For the entire history of the world, over 4.5 billion years, and spanning the breadth of an entire cosmos, some 2 trillion galaxies, we are the only example, so far as we know, of the universe becoming self-aware.
The universe is dark and indifferent, but every question we ask, every emotion we express, and every act we commit with purpose and intent shines a light brighter than any star. Meaning is illuminated only through awareness. Measured against the vastness of the cosmos, the odds of your existence are vanishingly small. Yet here you are, made from the same stuff found in the planets and the stars, contemplating the meaning of existence. A miracle of nature, if ever there was one. Your existence is a miracle. You are a miracle. Let it be so.
Awesome. Thank you. I know Finn was trying to follow along. He doesn't even have the right book. Celina, can we get another Yeah, thanks. Poor guy. It's like, what page are they on? Did you ever get one? Oh my goodness. The very beginning. And I thought we were getting it. Why didn't you say something? Look, the fifth beacon here is agency, right? We are all self-possessed. You have autonomy. It's part of the dignity of human existence. Yes, speak up, please. Thank you. Great. Okay, so we have one more prayer, and then we're going to take a short break. The next prayer is going to be read by Sarah, and this prayer builds upon the miracle of existence that was referenced in the meaning prayer shared by Zack and Joby. And it reminds us that we have so much to be grateful for. And our very existence, in spite of the astonishing odds against it, can be an incredible source of meaning. So to reflect upon this spirit of gratitude, we will bring up Sarah now to read the gratitude prayer. And it now has, yep, you got it? Perfect. You too? Devion? Okay.
We have so much to be grateful for. The very fact that we are here, that any of us should exist, despite the extraordinary odds against it, is truly a miracle. And the fact that we are here in this space together, sharing this experience of communion and fellowship, is a gift worth cherishing. So let us take a moment to be thoughtful and reflect upon this blessing, to enjoy the fellowship of friends and family and neighbors, as we come together to celebrate the light of reason, the virtues of skepticism, and the miracle of existence. Let it be so.
Let it be so. Amazing. Thank you. So, as promised, we are going to take like a 5-minute break, short break. Sorry, we got started a little late this morning, so Celina's pushing us along. But by all means, help yourself to some coffee. If there's still some donuts left, you can use the restroom. And in the spirit of gratitude, also take a moment, say hello to someone. If there's someone here you haven't seen in a while, catch up. If there's someone here you haven't met, introduce yourself. We've got a lot to be grateful for. So let's share the spirit of gratitude. Go ahead. Let's take a break. Go! Our gratitude prayer. We'll bring up LuLu. We'll share with us our compassion.
Even as we recount the things that we have to be grateful for, and there are many, let us also observe how much of our fate is determined by circumstances outside of our control. There is not one among us who deserves credit for choosing their genes, or their parents, or where or when they were born. And neither is there one among us who deserves blame for their burdens, or their afflictions, or their shortcomings. It is a fact of nature that our fate is neither a reward nor a punishment. No one deserves praise or blame for their being. Let us view the world honestly and see each other truly, and recognize that all are deserving of compassion and grace. Let it be so.
Great. So what is skepticism? I promised that we would talk a little bit about that. So much of what we are doing here is hinged upon this concept, and it's something that most people are not familiar with. Of course, we've heard of what it means to be a skeptic, or we've heard the word skepticism, but we're not familiar with what it means as a movement, the endeavor or the enterprise of scientific skepticism, which is an approach to knowledge that emphasizes evidence-based reasoning and critical thinking. Skepticism prioritizes empirical evidence and reproducibility over intuition and personal beliefs. Skepticism, one of the ways that we can understand something is also by understanding what it's not, but especially with skepticism, because when you say it, people, I think, automatically have ideas about what it is, and oftentimes their intuitions or their expectations about what skepticism is, they're actually the exact opposite, really, of what it represents. One of the foremost among them is denialism. Skepticism is not denialism. We talked about what's happening at the CDC with RFK Jr. RFK Jr. is a conspiracy theorist. He is not a scientist. His positions are not based on the evidence. They're based on an ideology, based on a narrative. He has adopted the narrative that vaccines are dangerous, that they cause autism, and so he contorts and distorts the evidence to bend toward his preferred narrative. That is not how science works, so accordingly, that is not how skepticism works. We are not deniers. We follow the evidence wherever it may lead. If I say, or if we advocate, or if we endorse the idea that vaccines are safe and effective, it's not because we have any personal vested interest in it. That is not a key feature of my identity or of a skeptic's identity, and it is not a part of official skeptic doctrine. There are no laws, as we said in one of our opening prayers. There is no canon, there are no laws. Skepticism is a position, is a process. It's not about the positions. We follow the evidence wherever it may lead. If the evidence says that vaccines are dangerous or not effective, then that would be our position. The fact is that when you look to the consensus of experts in the relevant fields, vaccines are overwhelmingly shown to be safe and effective. So we do not deny the evidence. And it is a mistake, and it does the enterprise of scientific skepticism a disservice when we refer to someone like RFK Jr. As a vaccine skeptic. He is not a skeptic. He is a denier. He denies the evidence. Skeptics follow the evidence. James Randi, rest in peace, a famous and prominent skeptic who, unlike many of the people we've referred to previously, people like Carl Sagan, James Randi came to skepticism through magic. He's a stage performer in the style of Houdini. And this kind of points to an interesting feature of skepticism because it is more than just purely academic. Because even among scientists, there is an urgent need for skepticism, because skepticism especially focuses on the ways that we can be deceived and the ways that we deceive ourselves. And so stage magicians like Houdini and James Randi, they are aware of the ways that we can fool people and that people can be deceived. That is an important skill set to bring to bear on the enterprise of skepticism. And so you find within the scientific skeptical movement, there are not just academics, there are also people that are experts in the areas of deceit and deception, people like James Randi. So James Randi passed away in 2020, but one of the quotes that he said was that those who believe without reason cannot be convinced by reason. So someone like RFK Jr., his position is not based on the evidence. That's not why he's arrived at his positions. So no amount of evidence. He's been spouting these same lies for decades. His position won't change. There's no hope that you will ever convince him by reason or by the evidence, because that's not why he arrived at his positions. And I keep referring to RFK Jr. just because he's at the top of mind. He's at the top of the news cycle right now, but he is just sort of representative of kind of that conspiratorial mindset. Another thing that skepticism is it's not common sense. A lot of times when you tell people that you're a skeptic, they'll say, oh yeah, me too. I always say the world just needs more common sense. You know, if we just use more common sense, it'd be a better place. Skepticism is explicitly not that. Again, because it is a special lens that we are focusing on deceit and deception. Well, no one is better at fooling us than our own brains. And so our intuition, our common sense, oftentimes will mislead us and misguide us. Skepticism is the practice of learning and identifying the ways that we deceive ourselves and then correcting for them. That is what the skeptic's toolkit is. These ways that we deceive ourselves, they're categorized and cataloged into common fallacies like argument from authority or confirmation or cognitive biases like confirmation bias. And by recognizing these things and bringing them to our attention, then we can correct for them. That is what skepticism is. And then when you apply those tools to all areas of inquiry, then that's how you start to arrive at more reliable answers, free from the foibles of deception. All right, the featured topic of today's sanctuary is morality. In the prayer books on page 4, we have, oh, and I can also bring it on screen, I think. We have our beacons. There they are there. Yep, 5 beacons. So just a quick note on why we're talking about morality today. I said that this is our 5th service. So all we've done is each month, we started at one of the beacons, and then each month we just move to the next beacon, and then choose a topic within that theme. There is nothing special about what we're doing here. Anytime you start a new religion, which is just an impossible and awkward thing to say, right? We're starting a religion. And so naturally people will think, well, certainly it's a cult, right? This must be some kind of a cult. Fair. That is a fair concern, fair criticism. But there's nothing special about what we're doing here. There's nothing special. There's no sacred or secret knowledge that I am imparting. There's nothing unique about me or this ministry. So in that way, we are not making any extraordinary claims here. And we've not, well, we've not asked for any money, but I am going to sell you something today. If you like these pens, wait, I'll tell you more about them. But it's a great way to support the church. But so in that way, you know what I mean? There's no cult of personality. There's no, I'm not divining any wisdom out of anywhere. We're only sharing and relying on well-established scientific and skeptical principles. And all we're trying to do is share them. We're trying to create a forum and a space for getting these ideas out there because we find that nothing has been doing it effectively. And these are the most critical tools and skills that any human with a brain living in a society can possess. And they're woefully underdeveloped and undertaught. So we're not waiting for schools. We're not waiting for our politicians. We are building something to get these ideas out there. And religion, as it turns out, just happens to be the most effective vessel for communicating values and ideas. If there is anything, though, unique about what we're doing, it's just that we have to create the framework. Right? We have to build these things to give us the forum to talk about them. So we have 5 beacons. There's nothing unique about any of these beacons, but just the fact that we organize them into a structure at all, sure, that's what's maybe unique about the Ministry of Skepticism. But you don't need us to do it. It's just a starting place to talk about these things. So we have 5 beacons: self-awareness, empathy, morality, reason, agency. Under each of the beacons, we have revelations. Each of those beacons, like self-awareness, the revelation that follows from self-awareness is that I exist. And each one of the beacons have a revelation. Others exist. Right and wrong exist. Truth exists, and existence is meaningful. Remember, we are just trying to create a framework to talk about things that are important and meaningful, so that as we build our lives and we share values with the people in our community and our children, we have a way to talk about these things. Underneath each revelation, we have a virtue that follows. And we are sharing these with you in rows, but also really the columns are kind of how the logical flow goes. So the first column is self-awareness, the revelation is that I exist, and then the first virtue that follows from that is I am curious. So we see all the virtues here. I am curious, I'm compassionate, I am just, I'm thoughtful, and I am motivated. And then underneath that, we have disciplines. They are also virtues. This is kind of the secret sauce of skepticism. If there is a secret sauce in here, it's nothing, as I keep trying to impress upon you, there's nothing special about us, but there's absolutely something special and unique about skepticism. And it is primarily these disciplines. These are skills and ideas and values that come directly from skeptical teaching. And we call them disciplines because although they are virtues in every way, and as much as this row, which we call virtues, these are virtues that are less intuitive. They take work. We call them disciplines because you actually have to work at them. Things like recognizing that we are fallible, offering charity and grace to people that we may not necessarily agree with. Being honest sounds like a no-brainer, but it can be hard sometimes to be honest when it can be tempting to be, or it can seem so much easier to not be. Rigorous in our studies, in our pursuit of answers and truth, and dispassionate, not being so consumed or motivated by our emotions, but trying to follow the evidence wherever it will lead. So that is a quick overview of the 5 beacons. And so within this structure, within this framework, today we are talking about morality, which is the 3rd beacon there. And you can see we look in the middle column there, the revelations that right and wrong exist. That's what we're talking about today. Morality, right and wrong from a skeptical perspective. Now, because this is a movement inspired by science and skepticism, I guess I should give a little bit a background into how we even arrived at these beacons and these revelations. But each of the first 4 beacons are inspired by insights from the stages and milestones of cognitive development. So from watching and studying human brains and young children and watching and in a systematic way learning about the way that all of our brains develop, because you see patterns, right, over large data sets. And the 5th one there is agency, which comes from and is inspired by our motivations, our desires, our wants, insofar as they are inspired by and influenced by our genes. So we're talking specifically about morality today, and since that is the featured topic, I'll go into a little more depth on that. This is the idea of knowing right from wrong and feeling a sense of moral and social responsibility. We've mentioned before, and probably we will mention a lot, Jean Piaget, because he was the first psychologist to comment on this. He did a lot of studies in the 30s on children, was the first one to look at, patterns in the development of children. And so he's the one that kind of really outlined and started to sketch the first outlines of the stages of cognitive development, the different features of cognitive development. He is still widely cited today and essentially single-handedly created this area of study. He identified 2 key stages in the development of moral and emotional development. And the first one occurs between the ages of 4 through 10. That includes probably, Alia, your students are at the tail end of that, right? So you are witnessing the kids right on the transition between this first stage, which they call heteronomous morality, and then the second one, which is autonomous morality. And it's interesting because, Alia, in the story you told, we see in practice exactly the things we're talking about right here. Because in the first stage, what they call a heteronomous morality, this is when children view rules as rigid and unchangeable. And they see them as handed down by authority figures like parents or a god. And so they judge, their morality is based on the consequences, on the outcomes, rather than intent. Everything is rigid and fixed and handed down. That is the first stage of moral development, and that is in children from 4 to 10. And what you saw, what you witnessed, Alia, was your 10-year-olds moving to the second stage of moral development, what we call autonomous morality. And this is for ages 10 and up. Finch, you are well in this stage already. Congratulations. Welcome to autonomous morality. But so children in this stage recognize that rules are social conventions. They're not just handed down by an authority figure. They're things that can be changed through group consensus. They got together and they talked about it, what was right and wrong, and they came to a consensus among themselves. They didn't just defer to authority. They didn't just think that something is right or wrong by fiat. They reasoned their way through it, came to a consensus, and they learned to consider an intention, the intention behind something rather than just taking it for granted. A famous example of this is, and I think this also comes from Piaget, but if you take two boys, one who breaks 15 cups while helping his mother, and then another child who is being naughty and breaks 1 cup, well, in the first stage of moral development, when you see rules as fixed and rigid and just being handed down from an authority and only, based on consequence and the outcomes, you're not thinking about intent, then children at that stage will think that the boy who broke 15 cups while helping his mother is more guilty, is more morally culpable than the child who was being naughty but broke only 1 cup. They see the outcomes and they see the rules. Breaking cups is bad. So it's only after you start to develop this autonomous morality that you start to factor in intent, the intention behind the thing. It's not just about rigid, unchanging rules. We also factor in other things like harm and intention, consequences. So there you go. That's an introduction to the beacons. And like everything that we do here, right, this is not just an academic endeavor. We are trying to balance things with important insights, with the tools to help us understand our own minds, to bring us toward a greater sense of compassion through evidence-based means. But we also are elevating everything to a more heightened existential plane. So in that spirit, I'd like to bring up my daughter, LuLu. She's going to guide us through the next prayer, which is actually a call and response prayer. So if you guys do have your books, now would be a good time to open them. You're looking for the Beacons prayer. What page is that on? 8.
So I say the bold part and you say the non-bold part. Okay. Self-awareness is the greatest miracle in the universe.
I exist.
I am how the universe thinks about itself.
I nurture curiosity and acknowledge my biology.
Empathy connects me to other sentient beings just like me.
Others exist.
I am not alone.
All are deserving of compassion and charity.
Morality lays the foundation for well-being and coexistence.
Right and wrong exist.
I prefer well-being over suffering.
All are entitled to justice without prejudice and honesty without bias.
Reason elevates my ability to engage with and understand the world.
Truth exists.
Nature is revealed through an evidence-based process of observation and testing.
I am thoughtful with my questions and rigorous with my answers.
Agency empowers my existence.
Existence is meaningful.
I evolved to have wants and desires. I am motivated by love, curiosity, and creativity.
My desire and pursuit of truth makes my existence more rational and fulfilling.
Let it be so.
Awesome. And so as far as religious rituals and religious ceremonies go, that's about as religious feeling as it gets. I mean, doing the call and response, that feels religious. But it is imbued with the values that we've been preaching here today. And hopefully that gives it a sense of relatability. It's something that resonates with us. And so we feel the sense of fellowship and community in sharing those words and those ideas together. Thank you, LuLu, for leading us through that. Ooh, really? It's 12:30?
Yeah.
What happened? What were you guys doing during the break? Okay, well, I'm going to speed through this then. Why do I even write my own illumination? Never have time for it. Okay, so a couple, what? Am I on? Oh, I did? Okay, I got a little bit of time. Okay, here we go. Speed run. Y'all ready? You ready? Stopwatch. Start it. No, okay. Okay. So I want to talk about a couple of interesting stories that I encountered recently that I think help to illuminate some of these ideas that we're talking about. I was talking to Celina recently. For those of you that don't know, Celina and Danny have a senior residential care home, right, for seniors near the end of their lives. And before that, she was a PTA, physical therapist assistant. And so she works with seniors and has for a long time. And so that means she encounters people that are confronting their own mortality, that are actively and literally facing it. For most of us, it's a little more abstract, but these are people who really are living with it and confronted with it daily. To the extent that she has had patients who ask for help, ask for death. They've lost their loved ones. They have no more meaningful connections in their lives. In a lot of cases, they're living with pain, certainly with existential pain. And they've lived full lives, but they're done. There's nothing more to live for. And it can be, as you can imagine, extremely painful and heart-wrenching to hear someone asking for a merciful death. And especially when you can't grant them that peace. It is illegal. Certainly Celina cannot do it, not in this country. Not only can she not do it, but she can't even prescribe, or there's no doctor that will give you the medications to facilitate it. Here, they are obligated under threat of law to live, despite their own wishes against it. Now compare this to, I don't know if any of you saw this story, but this week, there was a pair of twin sisters. Did y'all see this article? It's really cool. Alice and Ellen Kessler. They were born in 1936, and they were famous performers in their time, singing and dancing and on television, from Germany. They achieved some level of international success. They died on November 17th. That's still this week. They were 89 years old. But you might be wondering, how did they die? What does that mean, right? Were they in a plane crash? Was there an accident? They chose to die together. They spent their whole lives together. They were inseparable. And at 89, they decided they wanted to die with dignity together rather than risk having to live without the other. They'd lived good lives. They were done. They wanted to go out on their own terms. And because they are German and we're in Germany, well, Germany is not like the US. They have something called medical aid in dying, which is where you can prescribe a lethal dose. They still don't have euthanasia. You're not allowed to administer it to someone else. Celina couldn't go in and give them the shot, for instance. But you can aid them in the sense that you can give them the tools, the means by which that they can choose a merciful passing. It's interesting how Germany arrived at this medical aid in dying, this legal position. because it derives from their actual Constitution. And I'm going to read you a couple of the articles from the Constitution because I think that they are so moving. In Article 1:1, it says that human dignity is inviolable. To respect and protect it is the duty of all state authority. What a powerful thing to have in a Constitution. And it also says every person shall have the right to the free development of his personality, insofar as he does not violate the rights of others. These seem like such great things to have enshrined in a Constitution. We have some of these things kind of in our Bill of Rights. So a person in Germany, because of this, the lawmakers and the courts, taking direction from their Constitution, have arrived at these laws that now permit medical aid in dying. So that a person in Germany can make an autonomous decision to end their own lives or their own life. And this decision must be respected by the state insofar as these people are acting freely and deliberately. In Germany, you're under no obligation to live. So this highlights the difference between morality and ethics, if you will. Here, on the one hand, we have the system that Celina is operating under, which seems to derive from kind of moral principles. If we call back to the two stages of moral development, it's much closer to what you have in young children, this rigid sense of morality based on a strict adherence to rules and authority. It's fixed and unchanging. Murder is bad. We don't kill. That sounds a lot more like the first stage of moral development, the heteronomous morality. Whereas in Germany, they've adopted a more autonomous morality. It's not fixed. It doesn't just derive from unquestioned authority. It's arrived at through reason. It's deliberated. And it considers outcomes, consequences, and things like autonomy and dignity. So a shorthand for thinking about these two different ideas, morality versus ethics, is that morality is an inherited system of values and ethics is a reasoned system. You can see how this system of ethics influences our secular laws. We happen to have a whole system of justice built around rules and laws based on ethics, people coming to consensus, considering difficult ideas, nuanced topics. It's much different than a moral set of laws or rules. You can compare, for instance, the German Constitution or even our own Constitution, our Bill of Rights, against something like the most iconic, most revered moral edict, right? The Ten Commandments. We acknowledged earlier that there are some politicians trying to get the Ten Commandments hung in every classroom. Do you guys know what the Ten Commandments are? Just as we all talk about it all the time, and you hear it and you just take for granted, oh yeah, Ten Commandments, probably pretty reasonable, universal laws, to model life around. I'm just going to read them to you quickly. And in the interest of clarity and fairness, so far as I know, some of you that are maybe more schooled in this area can correct me wherever I'm wrong, but there is not, I don't think Ten Commandments actually appear in the Bible. Moses did have, the 2 stone tablets, but I think the passages where these commandments are listed in the Bible, they're usually not quite listed out, numbered 1 through 10. I think we arrive at the Ten Commandments kind of by parsing through the laws as they're expressed in the in the Bible. But here they are, roughly, more or less. I am the Lord your God. You shall worship no other gods besides me. You shall not carry God's name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. God made the earth and everything on it in 6 days, and he rested on the seventh, so do we. That's 1, 2, 3, 4 already. 5, honor your father and mother. 6, you shall not murder. 7, you shall not commit adultery. 8, you shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor, and you shall not covet your neighbor's house, your neighbor's wife, or anything that's your neighbor's. Okay. For me, those are pretty unmoving laws. There's a couple of things in there that are kind of like no duh. If anyone thinks that people didn't know not to steal or kill before the Ten Commandments, well, you don't know anything about human history. In fact, anthropologists have identified a long list of what they call human universals that appear across virtually all tribes, societies, cultures, and all times. Sometimes even predating not just religion, but humanity itself. They call these cross-cultural moral universals. But things like prohibitions on murder and theft, the protection of children, norms of fairness and justice, these all appear cross-culturally and predate religion. Christopher Hitchens, in 2007, wrote that human decency is not derived from religion, it precedes it. Norms of fairness and justice are demonstrated in primates. They predate not just religion, they predate Homo sapiens. Reciprocal altruism, the idea that you help me, I'll help you, that also predates Homo sapiens. You can see that in not just primates, but also dolphins, elephants, and wolves. So the idea that morality has to come from a divine creator, it just defies everything that we know from the scientific and empirical record. And so Christians later codified this idea of reciprocal altruism. They called it the Golden Rule. But the Golden Rule exists in every culture. And as we've identified, it predates even humans. You help me, I help you. We've all seen the documentaries where primates are picking fleas and ticks off of the other primates. So going all the way back to Celina's predicament, right? The seniors, that we can't give the dignity of a merciful passing when they want it. And when we compare that to the German model, right, which gives dignity and autonomy to its citizens, we can also view that through. I think it helps us to understand the lens through which we are trying to understand morality from a skeptical perspective, right? We are advocating for something closer to an ethical basis for morality, something based on a reasoned movement toward right and wrong, as opposed to a handed down fixed and unchangeable sense of right and wrong. The Ministry of Skepticism advocates for a system of ethics that is derived from evidence-based reasoning. We care about consequences, we care about fairness, we care about dignity. We believe that all are deserving of compassion and grace, and all are entitled to live and to die with dignity and autonomy. I tried to go through that pretty quick. I skipped a lot of stuff. Okay, so in closing, you guys, we do have one final prayer and ceremony. I'm just going to say a couple of remarks really quickly, kind of housekeeping stuff, but our next service will be in December, December 13th. Dan, mark your calendar. And it's going to be on UTD campus. So Dorothee has got us an amazing space, and I quite like this space. So we will certainly be back here, I'm sure, at some point, but we're really looking forward to being on UTD campus. Follow our socials. That's where we post the updates. It's where you'll know exactly where we are, what time, and if anything changes, that will happen on Instagram or our website. And it's all under Ministry of Skepticism. So it's easy to find on YouTube, on Instagram, or on our website. After this, we're going to Turbo Coffee. We've been there several times before. We have the upstairs reserved, so we've got a whole space for us to continue this conversation, to get feedback and input. It's on Coit Road. There are multiple locations for Turbo Coffee. Make sure you go to the one on Coit Road in Plano. If you enjoyed this, please come back. Those of you that are returning, thank you for coming back. If you think there's someone that might get anything out of it or enjoy it also, bring them. Thank you for everyone who's brought someone. And thank you for all the new faces that we've got here. Stay curious, you guys. Keep asking questions. This is different than revealed authority. Nothing here is fixed or unchanging. So we welcome your feedback. And anything is subject to change and open to review, including everything we've said here today. Spread the light, you guys. We opened this service with a ritual consecrating the lighting of the candles. Now we're going to... Have I been off this one? Oh, yeah, I want your money. Thank you. So, yeah, we've never asked for any money, and we're still not going to. But if you want to support what we're doing here, you can do it by getting one of these pins. It supports us because we're going to sell them to you, but also because you can wear them and show your support. And they're really cool. We're selling these for, do I hear, for 20 bucks? A little pricey, but it's worth it. This coffee's not cheap. We go to Starbucks. And I guess you can, we've got some of them here. If you got, yeah. What's that? Oh yeah. So we do have these here. If anybody wants them, just find us, find Celina, whatever. We've got some, and we will happily sell them to you. We will have them for a while. So you think about it, and or you can contact us. We can send them to you, whatever. Just so you know, these exist now. We've got some people already here wearing them. They're great. They're really cool. And it's you show your support not just by giving us 20 bucks, which is appreciated, but you get to support the Ministry of Skepticism. It's really cool. Spread the light. Okay, so now we're going to call up LuLu and Emmett and Gus. Are they still here? Yeah. And Dorothee's going to, yeah. So you guys can all go stand with your lanterns. Great. And just bear with us here 1 second. And
can I share something for 2 minutes?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Before I read, I just want to share something that's related to what Arlo just said about euthanasia. So last week, I had a 19-year-old cat that was very sick. And we had somebody, it's a vet, it's a service. They come to your house and they help you put your animal to sleep in a very peaceful way. And my daughter was there. Even my ex-husband was there. He'd never been inside my house because that was his cat more than mine, even when we were still married. And it was just such a peaceful moment, and we were holding hands and saying goodbye. First, the vet gives like an injection that puts her to sleep, but still alive, and then eventually the actual medicine that kills her. But it was just the right thing to do, and dignity and all of that. And it made me think a lot about why don't we have that for people, right? It just felt so right for ending her life. But
thank you for sharing that.
Yes. I can't see anything. I need a little bit of light. Yeah, maybe. Tell me what I can do.
Yeah.
We turn our attention once again to the lantern, an encasement of iron and glass that protects the candle burning within. The candle itself is a symbol representing the light of knowledge and reason. The light must be protected. Protect the light. Carry it.
Go ahead.
Now take up your lanterns and carry them into the world. Hold them high and let the radiant light shine against the encroaching darkness of pseudoscience, superstition, and unreason. Science is a candle in the dark. The lantern is a beacon of rationality. Spread the light.
Religion is a powerful tool, and we employ it earnestly in the service of a skeptical message. We acknowledge the role that narrative and ritual play in making our teachings more palatable and our lessons more transmissible. Even as our spirits are raised in transcendence, our feet remain grounded in reality. We draw a bright line between the tales that we tell ourselves and the truth. Blow out the candles. The candle carries no meaning outside of our metaphors. The candle is just iron and glass, after all. The only source of meaning, so far as we know, is you and your self-awareness, the most extraordinary creation in all of the cosmos. You are the source of reason. You are the source of knowledge. You are how the universe thinks about itself. Feed your curiosity. Sharpen your skeptical tools. Spread the message of skepticism and critical thinking. You are the light. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Be the light, spread the light, protect the light. Let it be so.
Thank you, Dorothee. Amazing. Okay, we did it.